That worked out perfectly. The old slip bobber.
Just a dominant technique.
For good reason, because it works really well.
You saw him on the Mega Live, you pitch to him, the bobber goes down and you catch him.
Nothing better than watching a bobber go down for walleyes.
Welcome to Angling Buzz. In this episode, we're focusing on float fishing. Here in the upper Midwest, throughout the season, anglers use floats to catch everything from panfish to walleye, trout, salmon, catfish, and even muskie.
Whoa, there you go.
Yeah, nice.
You got one?
And it's probably a good bet you were introduced to this style of fishing at a young age, fishing for panfish off a dock. Watching a float go down when a fish bites, that never gets old, even for seasoned anglers. And the truth is, in many situations, this is one of the most effective techniques because the bait is sitting in a fixed position. And many times, fish are in a neutral to negative mode, and having the bait sit there in one spot can trigger a lot of bites.
Ooh. Size?
Elmer Gantry.
Today's featured guest is Jeremy Smith of Angling Edge. Jeremy, I know you've been fishing up in the Leech Lake area recently, and specifically on Leech Lake. How's the bite been up there?
Yeah, I was up in the Leech Lake area this weekend and got to fish Leech and then some of the other smaller lakes in that area. And fishing was really good, which, you know, June is a great time to be up there. So we caught walleyes, smallmouth. We caught some big sunfish on topwaters, got it in the crappies, caught a big pike, and even got muskie on muskie opener. So fishing in that area has been really good. And, you know, walleye fishing has been outstanding in that area. I was talking with Toby Cabalibog, one of the guides on Leech Lake with Leisure Outdoor Adventures, and they were doing excellent, especially with today's show theme, slip bobbers. It's just a dominant technique in that area for catching numbers of walleyes.
That worked out perfectly. The old slip bobber.
So Leech Lake has been really hot, and the slip bobber bite has definitely been on fire.
Yeah, it's no surprise the bite's been good. I've been seeing a lot of big fish posted on social media. Now, why do you think slip bobbers have become so popular in recent years?
Yeah, so slip bobber fishing is nothing new, obviously. It's been around for a long time, but how anglers traditionally fished a slip float years ago is you're gonna anchor up, you're gonna throw your corks out, and you're just gonna wait for the fish to come to you. And technology has really changed that game, and it makes it such an incredibly efficient means of delivering live bait to a number of fish species, especially walleyes. So when I'm talking about technology, it's really, you know, a combination of multiple technologies. So anglers today can use their Lake Master map to identify, you know, areas that you think are going to be key fish holding locations, and then from there, rather than just using traditional 2D sonar, you're looking with your side imaging. So you can cover really large areas of ground looking on both sides of the boat. So you'll drive, boom, I see a pot of fish off to my left or off to my right. Mark those fish, and then what you're doing is you're turning around, employing the forward-facing sonar technology to identify specifically where those fish are. And once you've identified where the fish are, you can make very accurate casts to those fish, position the bait directly above them, and bingo, you're in business. So you're never wasting any time using the combination of technology with slip bobbers.
Yes, technology really speeds up the fish finding process. Can you share with us kind of your step-by-step process and how you rig up slip bobbers for walleye?
Yeah, so the slip bobber system has really been refined as well. So one of the trends that I've been seeing a lot of guys do is they're fishing bigger bobbers and heavier weights. There's a couple reasons for that. First of all, the bigger bobber will support a heavier weight, but the heavier weights are also a different material than lead. It's tungsten. So using a tungsten weight in combination with a tungsten jig makes that very visible on your forward-facing sonar, but it also gets the bait down to the fish really quickly. And what this technology is showing us that the fish aren't stationary often. So many times what you're doing is you're seeing the fish moving on forward-facing, and you're positioning your cast, leading the fish, and so you can get the bait down really quick. So if you're fishing a smaller cork with less weight, it takes longer to get the bait in front of them. So fishing a bigger bobber with heavier weights allows you to get the bait to the fish more quickly, and it also allows you to be more accurate. You saw him on the Mega Live, you pitch to him, the bobber goes down and you catch him. So starting with the rod, reel, and line on this setup here, we're going to have a relatively long rod, you know, 7.5 to maybe 8.5 foot in length. One of the big deals is you want to have big guides so that your slip knot can get through the deal, and it's typically a braided main line. That's what most guys are running. That's what I'm running, a 10-pound braid. I've got Suffix 832 on here. So the setup is your slip knot. You're going to have a bead that goes directly above the bobber. You're gonna have a bigger bobber, and then you've got this tungsten slip weight right here above the bobber, and then from there you're gonna have a bead to protect that knot from that tungsten banging on top of the knot that's attached to a swivel. And then on your swivel here, you're gonna run a piece of fluorocarbon leader, maybe a couple feet long, and that's gonna be anywhere from 6 to 10 pound test. And then from there, you're gonna have a little tungsten jig on the bottom of it. Now, the tungsten jig I think is really important. One, it allows you to see it better on forward-facing sonar, but if you're running just like a plain hook on this system, when you go to cast, the rig is gonna wanna tumble, and having that little bit heavier jig on there keeps everything laying out a little bit better, and you're able to make more accurate casts, and you don't have to worry about following.
Thanks, Jeremy, for your time and sharing your advice and your insight into float fishing for walleye. In this next segment, we're joining Joe Nelson, and he's going to dive deep into the subject matter of float fishing, specifically fixed versus slip floats.
You know, float fishing has been a part of my repertoire for a very long time, dating back to Grandpa, right? And it's for good reason, because it works really well. It's really a winner of a technique because of the fact that floats keep baits stationary. And that's so important because for a lot of different species that aren't willing to chase, it can be the only way that you're gonna get bit on a given day. So now there's a couple different styles, especially for panfish, and this pencil style bobber, the longer version with the thin end, is very popular for good reason. I love it because when paired you know, with a jig or a jig in plastic, I'm able to fish. If that bait is sitting on bottom, then the bobber sits on its side, and you know you're not in the zone, and you're not set at an appropriate depth. But the problem with pencil floats can be if you want to add or impart a little bit of action. Let's say you want to cast it out, let it settle, and bring it back slowly. That bobber almost acts like a crankbait, or that float does. So it's really nice then to have kind of an egg style or oblong or round shaped bobber to be able to cast out, retrieve it, and not impart that crazy action to it. Because again, some fish like crappies, for example, like to or prefer to chase it just a little bit. So that can be a really winning technique for those kinds of fish. Now, when it comes to fishing for walleyes or other larger species, then we're often talking about, you know, slip floats or slip bobbers, where you've got a bobber stop or a float stop tied in somewhere on the line. You adjust that up or down. You've got a bead to keep that, you know, that float from kind of going past the slip bobber stop. And then usually I've got a short section, maybe 3 feet or so of lead line and a swivel in between them that goes down to my bait. Now the nice part is that you can adjust these slip floats wherever you want to. Let's say you're fishing in 16 feet of water for walleyes along a weed edge. You can pitch out there, and eventually you're moving your way shallower. You can shallow it up to 13 or 12 feet quite easily as well. You just reel up that bobber stop all the way up into your reel. Now on the terminal end, I've become a real big fan of tungsten for a couple different reasons. Tungsten allows us, because it's heavier than lead, to downsize our presentation. Again, if we're fishing stationary, often we're fishing in conditions that call for downsizing. Now, the other nice part is because of its weight and its heft, especially for slip float situations, it still provides all the extra weight that you need to pull coiled or kinked line through that thin bobber, which can be a real problem or pain, especially when you're fishing in super deep water. Now for boat control, I'm a big fan of being able to power cork or use power float type techniques, which involves having the bow mount down. You put it on spot lock, and then you kind of chase around as you see active pods of fish. You throw out the bobber, give it 30 seconds to a minute, move on down the line and keep moving. In situations where I'm kind of fan casting an area that I really want to cover well, I'll set the talon down, and that makes for a really nice way to be able to cover great amounts of water, yet lift it up and go and check out a different spot really easily as well. So if it's been since you were a kid, since you last put on a float, it's high time you give it a chance again, primarily because so often when fish are tight-lipped, you need live bait to get it done. Whether you're talking walleyes, crappies, bluegills, or any other species in between, this can be the real technique that keeps the bait stationary, soaking in front of their face, and finally enticing them to eat. Live sonar, forward-facing sonar, has taught us so many things, and it's really made float fishermen out of so many people. So go ahead, give it a chance. It's a winner technique that I know you're going to be able to catch more fish with.
There's a lot of details when it comes to float fishing. The better understanding you have of it, the more you can adjust to different situations and different fish.
This week we're featuring the Drift Casual Short on our Blackfish giveaway. Now the Drift Casual Short is a great addition to your wardrobe. It's breathable, moisture wicking, and has 4-way stretch technology. Now you can win this pair of shorts if you head to AnglingBuzz.com and click on our giveaways, or scan the QR code below.
And now it's time for our cool products. We're going to start with the Tungsten Crappie King from Northland Tackle. These feature hand-tied feathers and tinsel. They're available in some great colors. These are great to fish underneath, like a light bite float from Northland Tackle. These are tungsten, so they're 30% less dense than lead. This makes for easier casting, as well as it helps cut through the water better to keep your bait right beneath the float. And here's a tip, keep your knot perpendicular to the bait, and here's why. It helps keeps the bait horizontal underneath the float in kind of a natural position. This is going to help trigger more panfish to bite. The Tungsten Crappie King from Northland Tackle. And next, the Daiwa Regal LT 2500D XH. LT means light and tough. It features an air rotor system that reduces the overall weight by 15%. They come in different sizes from 1,000 to 3,000. This happens to be a size 2,500, which is just a great all-around reel. Smooth casting, smooth reeling, and a strong drag system. The Daiwa Regal LT 2500D XH. Next from Seafoam, it's Bugs Be Gone. It's summertime, and that means bugs. This can be used to clean stuck-on bugs, grime, algae off your boat, off your vehicle, even off your outboard. It's water activated and doesn't contain any harsh chemicals or odor. Simply spray it on and wipe away with a wet cloth or spray away with water. It's safe on vehicle paint, clear coat, gel coat, metal, glass, mirrors, carpet, plastic, and vinyl. Bugs Be Gone by Seafoam. And next, the Drift Casual Short from Blackfish. Now, I use these a lot. These are very comfortable, especially in the summer heat. They're great for fishing and actually everyday wear as well. They feature 4-way stretch, great pockets. They also feature a zippered back pocket, and the fabric is quick drying, so it does get wet, it will dry off very fast. This is just one of the great offerings from Blackfish Apparel. They have a lot of different clothes for both men and women. This is the Drift Casual Short from Blackfish. And up next, it's time for our technique of the week.
Got him.
There you go. There you go. You got another biggie?
I think so. There we go. Thank you, sir. All right. This setup is quickly becoming my favorite setup to throw for walleyes. There we go. Get him unbuttoned. Gorgeous Lake Vermilion eye. All right, now I want to run through my setup here quick because this has been an awesome setup for me. And it is the St. Croix Icon Drift and Float. Now it's an 8-foot rod. It's a medium light power with a fast action, and it is great for throwing floats out there. You can get them out a distance from the boat. It's got enough length where you have enough leverage to set the hook if your float is, say 20, 30 feet away from you. I've got it paired up with a Daiwa Ballistic, a 2500. It's got a super smooth drag. I've caught a couple big pike, some big walleyes. It's handled them great. spooled up with 832 10-pound braid down to a slip knot, to a bead, VMC float, down to a bullet weight, little swivel, and then about a 4-foot fluorocarbon leader, 10-pound down to a 1/16 ounce VMC moon eye jig. Pair that with a leech and you've got a deadly setup for, walleyes, but you're gonna catch panfish, you're gonna catch northern pike, you're gonna catch smallmouth bass. This rod can do it all.
It's very important to balance your equipment, especially when you're float fishing, matching the correct rod to your reel, line, and lure. And to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species, remember, anytime you're leaving any body of water, clean, drain, dry. Be sure to visit us online at AnglingBuzz.com. We have longer videos, in-depth guide reports, blogs, and much more. And you can also follow us across our social medias, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, simply AnglingBuzz. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.